Hello, everyone. My name is Cynthia Jones, and welcome to the Profitable Business Mindset Summit. We are having this summit to raise awareness about the mindset and how that plays a role in your life outcomes and development. And today we have the pleasure of having Glenn Harold with us. Glenn is the author and musician and experienced hypnotherapist who has helped thousands of clients over a wide range of stress-related problems. In addition, he has written 7 self-help books, produced hundreds of hypnosis and meditation audios for BBC audiobooks. Glenn has 20 years experience as a clinical hypnotherapist and one-to-one therapy session. Glenn has also developed a relax and sleep well app, which has become one of the world's biggest self-help apps. He has appeared on BBC TV, BBC Radio, Sky Sport, and Channel 4, and in many British newspapers and magazines, and much more, which I'm sure he will tell us all about. Again, thank you so much, Glenn, for joining us.
Hello, Cynthia. It's nice to be with you.
Yes. So we'll just jump right into the interview. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a hypnotherapist?
It's hypnotherapist.
Sorry, hypnotherapist.
You missed the N.
I'm sorry?
You missed the N.
Hypnotherapist.
But it's a good way to start, because most people's exposure of hypnosis is the stage shows and that kind of thing, which is a totally different kind of hypnosis. Whereas what I do is hypnosis with therapy, which is why, so it's hypnotherapy and it's in a therapeutic setting. So I kind of got into it because years ago, probably 30 years ago, I was a musician and I used to play in bars and clubs to make my living. And it was one time where we shared the bill with a stage hypnotist, and it was watching one of these guys do the entertainment thing. So he was, getting audience members up on stage and manipulating them to do outrageous things, dance around like chickens and all that kind of thing.
Wow.
And it just completely captivated me. Watching it from backstage and seeing him do that totally drew me in. And I was fascinated by the power of it. And so from there, I did a 2-year diploma with the British School of Clinical Hypnosis, and I never really looked back. But I didn't want to do the stage thing. I wasn't into that. I didn't want to make people dance around like chickens and look crazy. It was the power of healing. It was the power for transformation that really, I saw something there, because I'd had a very dysfunctional upbringing when I was growing up.
Right.
I had lots of addictions, drink and drug problems when I was young.
Right.
And so I was looking to fix those things. And there suddenly I had this tool that I could do that from the inside out. And so I really immersed myself in it when I learned the techniques and first got into it, because it transformed my life totally, from one of struggle, hardship, being broke, to this new life of abundance.
Right. Wow. And I think that's why I kept saying the other one, because when the way you described it, that therapist.
So hypnotherapy and stage hypnosis. They're the two.
Stage hypnosis. Yeah. Because I think that's what probably people are familiar with, because like you're saying, you hypnotize somebody and then you see them dancing around. This one, I started researching and I found you. This is the first time I have actually heard of a hypnotherapist where, you're using it as a therapy, like you said, to help you overcome struggles you might have. Yeah.
And it's an amazingly powerful tool for, breaking addictions and habits.
Wow.
And I've literally, seen clients in one session and broken lifelong addictions. There was a story I did for a national newspaper back home a couple of years ago, and they kind of put me in a publisher's office in London, and they wheeled in 5 celebrities, with addictions and phobias and all these problems, and I had to fix them in one session each.
Wow.
And the lead celebrity there was a lady called Andrea McLean. She's, a household name in England. And her thing was that she would eat a big bar of chocolate every single day. So I did this one session, and I did a little bit of hypnoanalysis where I kind of got to the root cause of the problem, why she was doing this. And it was a very quick session. It was about 45 minutes in a busy publisher's office in London. We were getting interrupted and everything. And And the session worked so well from her. From that day on, she stopped eating chocolate. And even if
Mm,
she saw it on the TV,
mm,
it would make her feel nauseous,
mm,
the sight of it. Because I gave her a suggestion under hypnosis that the thought and the smell and the taste of chocolate would make her feel sick. And that suggestion sunk so well in her unconscious mind that that's what happened. And it
wow.
worked a treat. And so it was a great article in the paper. And, I got a lot of mileage out of that.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it can be so powerful and so effective, when you get it right. And it's an incredible tool for change.
Hmm. Hmm. Wow. 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 That's very interesting. That's great. I think that sometimes people are looking for other means and ways to help their development and,
Mm.
mindset. And, there are different avenues to help you overcome. You don't have to do the traditional way that we've been taught to help you break cycles and
Mm.
mindsets. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so many, you know, experiences from our childhood are anchored in our unconscious mind.
Hmm.
And they're almost like programs that can be
Hmm.
running unconsciously.
Hmm.
And so, if you're in a sabotage pattern, or, in a relationships are always disastrous and but always very similar, it
Hmm.
can be because you've got programs running that are actually creating it. And it's not the other person, it's you. You're
Yeah.
creating this whole scenario.
Yes.
And that's where hypnotherapy comes into its own, because you can, in a one-to-one setting, I get the person into a very relaxed and receptive state,
Hmm.
and then, take out these programs and these old beliefs that are no longer serving them,
Right, right,
and and then change them for something more positive, and you know um where they're going to prosper, and just
right.
it'll be, they're going to do something where they're empowered and feeling good. And in my own experience, I had so much negative conditioning when I was a childhood. I was kicked out of school when I was 15, and they said I was the worst kid they'd had in the school. And
Wow.
I was a little troublemaker, but I came from a broken home.
Right, right.
So, I've never met a bad kid who didn't grow up in a bad home.
It's
It's always that.
yeah.
So I was a product of that environment. And so I had a lot of conditioning, failure conditioning,
Hmm.
because I was set up for failure. I had no qualifications when I left school. I was 15 when I was out working, and and I struggled. I struggled with work, with money, with relationships, everything. It was until I really did the course, and started to learn about hypnosis and changing from the inside out.
Right, right.
And that was it. And I stopped smoking. I got fit and healthy,
Why?
quit drinking.
Wow. Wow.
And I've lived I'm a million miles away from that young guy
Wow.
who
Wow.
was trying to find his way out of the woods, but just
Hmm.
didn't know how to.
Hmm. Hmm. Right.
And and I think, because I've done that, because I've got out of those difficult situations, and I'm much clearer now,
Hmm.
I can, that's what I love, helping other people do the same.
Right, right.
And with
Wow.
my recordings, I infuse them with that same journey that I went on, you know.
Wow. That's great. That's great. That's great. All right. So the next question we have is, what is the biggest hurdle you faced in life? And then how did your mindset help you overcome that?
So I think it kind of follows on from what I was saying earlier, that, because I had such a lot of negativity in my childhood,
Hmm.
the challenge I had was really overcoming that,
Hmm.
because I always had a lot of determination and a lot of drive. But unfortunately, when I was young, it took me in the wrong direction. I channeled it in the wrong way. I was kind of good at being bad.
Hmm.
And,
Hmm.
the local magistrates will attest to that when I was a teenager.
Uh-huh.
So I was good at being bad, and I got kudos from that, from the other sort
Hmm.
of tearaway kids that I was hanging around with,
Hmm.
and but that's all I knew. It was the first time I got that kind of kudos, and I did like it, but it got me into lots of trouble,
Hmm.
so really, when I started to, I got older and matured and started to, look for ways out of the negativity and the rut that I was stuck in. It was that, that was the challenge. How do I get over that? And I
Hmm.
tried really hard, but no matter how much I tried on a conscious level, I was still
Yeah.
stuck, and I felt like I was wading against the tide. It was
Right.
it was hard. It was push, push, push.
Mhm.
But when I started using self-hypnosis and I started meditating, I'd go into these deep trance states. I'd put myself in, I'd use self-hypnosis to go really deep. And then I would start to visualize abundance and success and
Wow.
happiness and,
Wow.
meeting really positive people, that kind of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
And, it wasn't like life changed straight away, but slowly and surely, little steps I took forward became bigger and bigger, and it became like turning the tide. It was
Mhm.
like that. And then suddenly I got this wave of positivity and, I became a hypnotherapist, eventually. And then I started to make recordings and, those recordings I put into local shops and they
Mhm.
started to sell really well.
Mhm.
And it was all homemade. There was nothing professional about it. I had
Wow.
no money back then. So I used to
Wow.
make the
Right.
display stands
Wow.
and then I'd take them into local shops and I'd
Mhm.
talk the, shopkeepers into taking them on a fiver on sale or return,
Mhm.
that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then I even went to Barclays Bank and I borrowed £1,000 to get some
Mhm.
new display stands done.
Mhm.
And by the time I'd paid that loan back, I had 5 staff working for me. I'd bought a big warehouse and
Wow.
we were shipping out, 100,000 CDs a year.
Wow.
And even my PA, she said to me at the time, she said, "What's this £36 coming out the account every month?" I said, that was from the £1,000 I borrowed when I started.
Wow.
I'd forgotten. So when it took off pretty quick and the whole thing and it
Wow.
was a wonderful journey and it still
Wow.
is. It's an amazing journey.
Wow. Wow, that's great. And then you can clearly see how you said, like, when you were doing the things that weren't so nice, that drive, you converted it to positive because, I mean, to go into the shops and speak to people, and, some will say no, some will say yes, and to keep going and going and going until you reach what you want. You said you're going to reach is great
Yeah.
determination.
Well, the one thing I had, because I had so many knockdowns as a kid,
Mhm.
knockbacks, and
Yeah.
it was a struggle. Whenever I faced any adversity, and when I was in my business career, it never bothered me.
Wow.
Never bothered me because
Wow.
I'd had a lifetime of that, and I'd just find
Yeah.
ways around it.
Yeah.
I'd always
Wow.
figure a way. If someone said
Uh-huh.
no, I couldn't do it, I'd figure
Uh-huh.
another way. And I
Wow.
think that was probably, I found that common with most people who've ended up
Mhm.
succeeding in a business sense, that it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked back or someone says no, you just carry on. You
On.
just
Yes.
keep going. And
Wow.
probably a good example of that is when I just signed a deal with the BBC because
Mhm.
when my CD started to sell really well, I
Mhm.
got them into chain stores in the UK and they were
Mhm.
selling like hotcakes.
Wow.
And the BBC got in touch with me,
Mhm.
and they were the biggest audiobook company in the
Mhm.
UK. And they came to me and said, "We'd like to sign you up." And they did. They signed me up for 10 recordings. And then they said, "You should try and get a book deal, with your audio stuff, you should get a book deal." And I thought, oh yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Not thinking how difficult it is, not realizing. So I rang a few agents in London. Or no, I asked my PA to ring a few agents in London. They couldn't get through. It was always send your manuscript. So I thought, oh, that's not very good. So I rang up the first one in the diary and in the book, and I said, "Oh, I was just speaking to your new buying department, and I got cut off. Could you put me through to them?" So I bypassed the lady on reception. I got through to but it was an answer machine.
Wow. Oh, okay.
So I left a message on the answer machine and I kind of babbled away. I said, "Oh, I've sold, 1 million CDs in the last 5 years," or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the guy that ended up becoming my agent walked past as that message was getting played. And then he invited me up to London and we got on like a house on fire. And
Wow.
I ended up signing a 5 book deal with a major publisher, with the biggest
Wow.
publisher in Europe, and
Wow.
McGraw Hill in the States. And
Wow.
I got an advance like I couldn't have dreamt of. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And I thought back, and it was all from that phone call
Mhm.
that I made, where I
Mhm.
bypassed the receptionist.
Uh-huh.
And it was that. It was like I was in the right place at the right time. But the one thing I was meditating, one of the meditations I used to do from the inside out was I'm always in the right place at the right
Right
time.
time.
And I
Wow.
used to do that over and over again, like a
Wow.
mantra. And
Wow.
sure enough, like that example, I would be in the right place at the
The
right
right
time
time
and I'd meet the right person.
at the
And
right
I got
time.
so, so lucky in my career that
Wow.
I know that it was the inner me was
Mhm.
putting out a certain frequency, a
Mhm.
certain
Mhm.
energy that was
Exactly.
and I was
Exactly.
connecting with these wonderful opportunities.
Wow.
And
That's
it's
so
not,
cool.
it's no secret. Anyone can do it.
Mm,
It's,
mm,
I was an averagely
mm,
intelligent kid who got
mm,
expelled from school at 15,
mm,
and I got luckier and luckier, but it was
mm,
because of the internal work.
mm,
And that's the key,
mm,
anyone can do that.
mm. That's a great inspiration. That's a
Yeah.
great inspiration. Yeah, so I also would like for you to share, if you could, what is one of the biggest investments you have made, with your your companies, and how has that helped propel your success?
The biggest investment, I guess, I would say, I mean, it sounds a bit cheesy, but I've always invested in the people that I've employed.
Wow.
And my PA has been with me 20 years now.
Wow.
And my IT guy, Russ, who you've probably dealt
Yes.
with on
Uh-huh.
email,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
is wonderful. He does the job about 100 times better than I ever could. And I give him so
Wow.
much to do. And they're both amazing, amazing people. And they're
Wow.
so dedicated to
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
company. But
Mhm.
from their point of view, they say to me, you kind of believed in us and gave us responsibility and helped us as well, because we're
Wow.
in the self-help business,
Uh-huh.
because
Uh-huh.
I've grown a lot,
Mhm.
they've grown as well because
Mhm.
they use the recordings and,
Mhm. Mhm.
that it's very much, a holistic company. We
Wow.
put out what we believe in. So yeah, I'd say the investment in them, and not that it seemed like that when I was, took them on, but I just, you know, I've had loyalty back from them like you wouldn't believe.
Wow.
Really, they're
Wow.
amazing. And
Wow.
so I think that's it. That's always a
Mhm.
good
Mhm.
tip for anyone starting out, because
Mhm.
the old
Mhm.
paradigm is all about dog
Mhm.
eat dog, make as much
Mhm.
as you can. The bottom
Mhm.
line's the key.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
it's not, for the long term, you need to look after the people that are
Mhm.
working for you,
Mhm. Mhm.
because they're representing you,
Mhm.
and if you get the best out of people, your
Mhm.
company will flourish
Yes.
and
Yes.
blossom. And
Yeah.
big companies often lose that. The bigger they
Yes.
become, they
For
sometimes
sure.
start out like that, but
Right.
when they become big, it's hard
Right.
to maintain that,
Right.
which is,
Right.
half the problem in the world. But
Right.
it
Yeah,
is,
that's something I really believe in, is you treat people, with respect and dignity. And like you're saying, the way they will work for you, the way they will go out of their way for you, it will
yeah,
come back
yeah.
tenfold. Mhm.
And also, when you do make money and you become abundant, it's so
Mhm.
nice to be generous with people and look
Yeah.
after people, because
Yes.
the money you make is even sweeter when you
Yes.
do that. It's the whole abundance thing. It's not just about receiving. The law of attraction
Yes.
is not just about
Yes.
receiving. It's about giving as well.
As well.
And giving, I know people who are very, very wealthy, and but as tight as two coats of paint.
Yeah.
And without failure, that in one way or another, they're struggling. They might have millions in the bank and
Mhm.
property assets. And I'm thinking of someone now, and
Mhm.
they're just not abundant in their life. They've
Right.
got the money, but they're not
But then
abundant.
in their life.
And that's such an
Exactly.
important part of
It
being
is.
truly abundant, is to
It
be,
is.
the whole ebb and flow of it.
It is.
And I love that side as much as anything, and
Yes.
yeah, it's a great
Yes.
way to be. And
Yes.
yeah.
Great, great information, great information. And also, can you tell us a little bit, how did you start your publishing company, Divinity?
It was, as I say, there was no great master plan, in that I'd literally seen 1,000 clients. When
Mhm.
I became a hypnotherapist, I loved it so much. I was driving to like 3 or 4 clinics a week and
That's
seeing
amazing.
25 clients a week.
Wow.
And I
Wow.
remember one week I saw 30.
Wow.
And as a hypnotherapist, when you're putting all of your energy into each
Mhm.
session to stop
Mhm.
people smoking, lose
Mhm.
weight,
Mhm.
overcome fears, phobias,
Mhm. Mhm.
takes a lot of energy. But I remember one week I saw 30 clients, and I used to put my heart and soul into those sessions, because I know how much people wanted to change and
Yeah.
wanted to get out of these
Yes.
destructive patterns.
Mhm.
So I literally saw 1,000 clients before I started making recordings.
Mhm.
And it stood me in good stead, because I had a lot of experience. So by the time I actually started making recordings that were generic and could lots of different people could listen to, I'd had a lot of experience. And I'd also, because I had been a musician,
Mhm.
I had a little bit of recording knowledge. So the combination worked well. I was an experienced hypnotherapist, and I knew how to record well.
Mhm.
So I got off to a good start. And also there was this market out there that was just ready to take off. I mean, now it's a the self-help market is massive, but when I
Yes.
started, it was quite small.
Yeah.
So really, for a few years in the UK, I kind of had it to myself, and I was really lucky. It was right place at right time again.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And literally, you know, I mean, I've, you know, I know I've sold 10 million because I've done the figures, and um,
Wow.
but I know it's more than that, because
Wow.
even my wife, she was originally, she used to listen to my recordings, but on a shareware site. So she would download the recordings free and listen
Uh-huh.
to them when you know, before we met.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
This is years
Wow.
before. So, you
Wow.
know, it's really, so I know I've probably sold, or there's another 10 million gone out there that I don't even know about.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
and
Interesting.
yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
I feel really, really fortunate to be in the
Mhm.
position I'm in,
Mhm.
because, you know, I
Mhm.
never would have imagined I'd be an audio hypnotherapist, which is what I am.
Wow.
Because when I was
Mhm.
young, I was in bands and I wanted to be a rock star.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
I was really determined, and it was kind of
Mhm.
my first sort of little
Mhm.
break. And
Mhm.
but so to end up doing this is wonderful. It's really wonderful.
Wow. Great, great, great story. Great inspiration. I mean, I believe stories like this give people a lot of hope, a lot of ways on how to make your dreams come true. Because I
Yeah,
believe we all have dreams, we all have aspirations that we're going for, but sometimes we just don't even know how to get there. And you know, you
yeah,
see a person and you're like, oh, he's so famous, he's so rich, so forth, so on. Oh, how did they do it? How did they get there? And you just don't know. And but then when you
sure.
hear a story like this, how you literally, you know, made up your mind and changed your life.
Yeah. And it was really, I can't stress enough, it was working from the inside out,
Mhm.
and really, you know, working with the law of attraction,
Mhm.
but also clearing a lot of the failure programming that I had from my childhood.
Mhm.
That was so important.
Mhm.
And I was, you know, I always say that if you want to build a really good physique, you know, create a
Mhm.
good physique, you go
Mhm.
to work out 3 or 4 times a week,
Mhm.
and you're
Mhm.
very, very active, and you watch what you eat.
Mhm.
And anyone can do that. You know,
Right.
it's not
Mhm.
rocket science. Anyone can do that.
Mhm.
So the mind is the same. You know,
Mhm.
if you really want to achieve your goals, you've got to work at it from you know, from the unconscious mind. You know, you've got
Mhm.
to program your unconscious mind with these new beliefs and these,
Right.
and you know, work from the inside out. And when you do that, when those beliefs and affirmations, post hypnotic suggestions are in your unconscious mind, you just resonate at a different frequency, and life changes. And it really is, you know, if you think of an iceberg, the 10%
Mhm.
above the surface is the
Mhm.
conscious mind. And
Mhm.
that's the part we're communicating with now,
Mhm.
the analytical brain.
Mhm.
But we've got this huge part below the surface,
Mhm.
you know, which is the unconscious mind. And this is where
Right.
we've got superhuman ability, and we've got so much
Wow.
talent and so
Mhm.
much
Mhm.
potential. And we're
Mhm.
the only species on the planet that has a mind that works that way. Most species use all of their brain all of the time. We
Mhm.
don't. We've got this incredible resource.
Mhm.
and and really the way you access it is by switching off. It's by stopping thinking. You
Mhm.
know, I'm really busy at the moment. I'm actually buying 2 properties at the moment and selling another one.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
coming from all angles.
Mhm.
And I'm really, you know, if I let myself, I can get quite stressed about it all.
Mhm.
Got other
Mhm.
things going on as well. And
Mhm.
so what I do, you know, I take time out where I lay down and I just switch off my mental mind, and I go into a state of self hypnosis where I'm not thinking. I'm just being. I'm just uh, centered and calm and still,
Right.
and I don't think of anything. I just let my mind go really still. And when you do that, your unconscious mind naturally comes to the surface, and that's when your creative ideas start to bubble up. You start to feel much more refreshed and in the moment. And
Wow.
whenever I do that, even if it's only 10 minutes, I come
Mhm.
back and I start to think more clearly.
Mhm.
I feel creative and I find
Mhm.
solutions to
Mhm.
problems.
Mhm.
And it's such an incredible resource. And I'm so glad that I found it, you know, 25 years ago, because it changed my life.
Right.
You know, it's like then and now. And, you know,
Right.
when I was in that band, I used to do interviews with the
Mhm.
band, and I couldn't speak on the camera because I'd get tongue tied. I had so, I had such a lack of self esteem and confidence. And the other lads in the band would take the mickey out of me because all I'd say is hello and goodbye. And I just clam up, I'd be at the back like that.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So, and that's how I was, and without all the clearing work, I'd
Mm-hmm.
probably be like that now.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
Right.
it's, you've
Right.
got to do that inner work is so important.
Important. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a great takeaway. And I think that's what this whole summit is about, is that inner work, because a lot of times we can't perfect, like you said, with the physical, we can perfect that outer work,
Mm.
but the inside is screaming something else. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the more I've got into it as well. I've been 25 years into that sort of clearing work, and I've done lots of other things. Other than self hypnosis, worked with other therapists and healers. Even ayahuasca. I've experienced ayahuasca a number of times, which is really deep, and it takes you into clearing aspects of your shadow that you
Mhm.
don't even know are there. You can't even see them, even sometimes under self-hypnosis.
Wow.
We're very, very multi-layered beings, and there's so
Right.
much depth to us.
Mhm.
There really is. And sometimes in those deeper places you can do the biggest work when you release things that are lurking deep in your subconscious. And
Wow.
through plant medicine I've cleared some amazing things. And it's like peeling layers of an onion. You peel
Mhm.
these
Mhm.
layers away and you get freer and more like who you're supposed to be.
We.
Because I think I was so bogged down with conditioning when I was young, and that kid who couldn't speak on the mic, it was blocked. It wasn't really me, but it was what my life had done to me at that point. And
Yeah.
so when I started to get rid of all that
Mhm.
conditioning and
Mhm.
clear that, then I
Mhm.
started to find my voice again and started to be the person I'm supposed to be.
Wow.
And I'll still be doing this work when I'm 90 because I want to get clearer and
Clear,
clearer.
clear.
So when I'm
Wow.
90, I'm still playing tennis and I'm beaming.
Great. Oh, wow.
That's
That's
the
so
thing.
wonderful. That's
Yeah.
so wonderful. And then the last thing we would just like to add, is there anything that you want to add to this interview that we didn't discuss?
I think it's the takeaway has to be that, no matter how stuck you are, how difficult life seems, there's always a way out of it. And, sometimes you can't always affect external circumstances, but you can, if you change what's in you, any negativity, any blocks and that kind
Mhm.
of thing,
Mhm.
you'll be amazed at how the world will respond differently to you.
Wow.
And so with what I'll do, I'll send you a free guide to self-hypnosis. So if
Wow.
anyone's new to it and they've never heard of it,
Mhm.
you can use this technique. It's, I think, 6 or 7 pages in a PDF, and you can learn the technique to go into a state of self-hypnosis
Wow.
and feel really good about it, feel comfortable in
Mhm.
there, and
Mhm.
then, do your own inner work. So it will guide you through that.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's a
Oh,
really good,
wow. Oh, wow.
yeah, that's a
Thank
really
you.
good thing to have.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, Glenn, thank you so much for speaking with us today. Thank you for taking the time out to share with us your experience and how the hippotherapist has changed your life. We really do appreciate that.
You're welcome, Cynthia. It's been my pleasure.
Yes, yes. And also, we do have more speakers lined up, so please, we will be sending emails every day to let you know. And thank you so much for joining us at the Business Mindset Summit. Again, thank you.